Welcome everyone to this month's newsletter. My name is Gonzalo Trenosky, the other half of Maple Capital Partners. And on today's webinar, we have a special guest. He is my partner here in the Charlotte metro area. And we're going to be discussing specifically our Lancaster, South Carolina deal, which is a land entitlement and development project. And we're going to give you a quick deal update on where we're at with that, what steps we took to get to this point. And most importantly, let me start by introducing you to Ty. Hey, Ty, what's going on, man?
Hey, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. I'll give a quick background on Ty. So for you folks that don't know him, hopefully with this little bio, you get to know a little bit more about Mr. Valkanas. So Ty Valkanas is a former U.S. Navy SEAL, former Chula Vista police officer in California, a man who values family and relationships, as well as a serial entrepreneur. So this allowed him more time for family, the availability of making his own schedule as an entrepreneur. So after 11 years in the SEALs team, Ty chose a career change for his family and pursued a career in law enforcement for the city of Chula Vista, California. After starting, he realized the cop job was not going to give him the time he wanted for his family. So Ty began wholesaling real estate in 2001 to create a cash flow business model. He was able to resign from the police department and run his real estate company full time. As the business grew, Ty began implementing multiple facets of real estate investing. The real estate companies have mainly revolved around value add resale, rental properties, land entitlement projects, condo conversions, development projects, and diversification into other business models. Since 2017, Ty has bought, built, sold, and holds interests in 5 other businesses in addition to real estate projects over the last 20 plus years. And how we met Ty, I remember the first real estate event we kind of met the first time. You did mention that you were also a part owner of a gym at that point. Anything you want to add to your amazing background there?
No, just a slight correction. You said 2017, but that was 2007.
2007, apologize.
No worries. The diversification in the real estate realm as well as outside of the real estate realm really kind of helped solve the biggest issue of real estate investing that's cash flow. So just being able to keep the cash flow going to be able to take advantage of some of the larger projects like what we're working on there in Lancaster.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a entrepreneur myself and into real estate and other stuff, yeah, definitely cash flow is very important because that's what's paying the day-to-day operations of your life, right? Your bills, putting food on the table, taking your kids to ballet class, all these things that cost dinero, they cost money. So the cash flow is very important when you're looking at different investment opportunities, I guess. That being said, we're going to jump in this webinar and talk a little bit about what we've been working on together here in the Charlotte MSA, where we both live and work and have our friends. Our network is all within this beautiful city of Charlotte. Ty, why don't you start off with talking about a little bit about what land entitlement is, why it may be a good fit for some people, and how does a passive position as an investor fit into that whole model with development and all that?
As far as land entitlement goes, you're taking a piece of land and then trying to find its highest and best use. So that would be, by right, whatever the zoning is, there's an allowance of what can be done with that property. You can look at potentially changing the zoning, whether it's in the county or whether it's within city limits or whatever. All of those things play a factor, as well as whatever municipality is overseeing that. Zoning changes from municipality to municipality. So it's a lot going on if you're switching different areas and doing different projects. It's a lot to keep up with. If the zoning is by right, meaning it's currently zoned and you can do what project you're looking at doing, that's the easiest way to do it. Rezoning the projects and or annexing a property into cities. Let's say it's in the county and the city limit is close by and you want to annex it in to be able to take advantage of their zoning protocol. You would then annex it and then rezone the property within the city aspect. So that's probably the most problematic is annexing, rezoning, and then entitling. So then once you understand the zoning potential, you would then start working on designing and or developing the plans for that project to submit to the city and ultimately get permits to break ground and make that happen. So the Lancaster project that we're working on is probably the prime example of the hardest kind of project because we had to annex it into the city. We rezoned it, and that was a process in and of itself. And then we started working on the entitlements from there on out. Once you get the entitlements, you've got a paper project, let's call it. There's buyers out there that would or could potentially buy the project for you. So then now at this new entitled position, it's now worth a little bit more. So you can actually take that project and sell it, which is normally what I do. I am a land developer typically. So I would entitle the land and then sell the project to a builder developer that would go in and actually do it. I would pretty much exit out or stay involved to some degree, potentially, and then move on to my next project. Now, on the Lancaster project, I'm actually switching it around just a little bit, and we are planning to actually joint venture with a builder developer and keep an ownership position. I believe that strategy now, I'm in a position to take advantage of something, that position, as well as stay involved with the actual holding of the units and build net worth at the end of the day. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Do you want me to drill down on anything specific?
No, that was great. The other question that I believe some of our listeners are is that how would once you have the property in the position where you're looking to raise capital for it to move to the next phase, how would a passive investor kind of fit into that whole piece of the puzzle as you're looking to kind of raise capital for it, maybe purchase fund a couple of important phases of the project like engineering, architectural, maybe even into construction? How would a passive investor kind of look at an opportunity like that?
Yeah, so depending on the size of the project and how much capital is actually needed, a lot of times you can set it up two ways. One would be in a way that would be like a syndication, just like what maybe most of you guys are familiar with, apartment acquisitions, or you could actually do a joint venture where somebody actually brings in the capital to be able to do that. They want to be a little bit more actively involved in the process, but there's still it's still pretty passive position. But then being able to utilize the funds to be able to come to the table, move those projects forward. We've done that in the past on projects just simply because you only have so much capital. So if you have an opportunity and you're able to provide a great return to somebody who might come in with some capital, we can share in that and still get that other project completed and done. So we're usually trying to do about 4 to 6 projects at any one given time, depending on the size of it. The Lancaster project being a 250 unit apartment project, that's a little larger project that usually buys a little bit more time, energy, effort, capital, and those things. So that would be a good potential to raise capital on and provide a return at the end of the day. And those usually, again, depending on the process of rezoning or annexing or whatever that looks like, which is a case-by-case basis. I would say on average it'd probably be about a 18 to 24 month period on average.
Much less than syndications, as we know, where hold periods can range anywhere from 3 to 7 years, depending on the business plan that the operators have for that opportunity.
So a little quicker turnaround. Usually what I like to do is I like to try to vet the deal as much as I possibly can prior to actually pulling in capital, just because it can be quite risky. Land development can be quite risky because if you can't rezone it for what your intentions are, then you don't want to put a whole bunch of money forward into that. And so, the screening process is different for every project. So, on this one, we really just dotted our I's, crossed our T's as we went into it, got it under contract for a long period of time. We were under contract for that for 12 months before we actually closed on it. And normally I negotiate even an 18 to 24 month period so that we don't have to close on it if it doesn't meet all of our requirements to be able to do what we need to do on that. But we do spend money to be able to get to those points in the course of that. So so there is some risk to it, but we usually mitigate that risk by making sure that those things are feasible moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. And as for you folks that are familiar with the due diligence period of syndication, some of the at-risk capital or at-risk money in the beginning could be things like hiring your professionals to go out there and look at properties. That's money that you're paying out of pocket. Your earnest money deposit, potentially, if you go past a certain 30-day period and it goes hard, and then you decide to pull out of the deal, that can be potential money that you could also lose. For land entitlement, it's more of, as Ty mentioned, money upfront that we paid was completing a survey for the property, making sure we knew the meets and bounds of the property, completing the geotechnical investigation of the property, making sure that for our property in particular, rock was not too shallow, meaning if rock was too shallow, it would make construction costs a little bit higher than we anticipated because it had to be blasting into rock, breaking into rock, exporting rock, which is more expensive than traditional soil. So that could potentially increase your construction budget. So all these things, due diligence in the beginning is what land entitlement is all about. The survey, the geotech, some of the other investigations that we completed in the first phase of this project. So that being said, for those folks that are not super familiar with location-wise, I did want to share with you real quick our investor deck that we quickly put that I grabbed from our shared server, and do want to share this with you so you have an idea of what we're talking about as far as like where is this project located. So our Lancaster deal is like I mentioned, is about 25 to 30 minutes south of Charlotte. It is considered inside the Charlotte MSA, the Metropolitan Statistical Area. Typical executive summer, and this kind of gives you an idea of location. So downtown Charlotte is right there at the top, city center. So it's about 45 minutes from the city center. And our project is right there in the red. Project location, City of Lancaster, just at the outer rim of the metropolitan, the MSA of Charlotte. A good location near Waxhaw, which is also a really happening little city there. A lot of development happening there. A very affluent city. City of Charlotte is 30 minutes from Lancaster, just north of it, because the state line basically is really close to all these cities that were near Charlotte. So Rock Hill, even though Rock Hill is south of Charlotte, it's still considered part of the MSA of Charlotte. So that gives you a quick idea of location wise. This is some of the information that we put together for potential investors. And when we were at the stage of raising capital for this project, some comps, top employers for the city, which continues to improve, right, Ty, for Lancaster as far as like employers and just job growth.
Yeah, amazing growth taking place down there. Yeah.
And it continues as development progresses south from the city, from Valentine area, which is south of Charlotte. Development is working its way down South Lancaster Highway, where our project is located. These are just land sale comparisons that we had to pull in the beginning to get a good fuzzy feeling of is this project feasible as far as if we were to finish it. What are some nearby comps that could potentially be comparable to the project that we're working on? So we had to do all that. This is kind of like, I'm sure this has changed, Ty, but this is an old footprint or site plan of our project. Is it close to this, or has it really moved around a lot?
It's very, very similar. Yeah, the building number 3 is turned sideways and stretched out a little further, but other than that, it's pretty much the same.
Yeah, so this is our project. We have kind of like a triangular shaped property, a little bit on a slope. So all of our development is really going to be occurring on the left side of our project. Would that be east? I'm not sure if that's east where the Greenway is.
Yeah, the east side, which is actually, for me, more exciting than the actual apartment buildings.
I love that aspect of it for sure.
Yeah, it's there's a creek there called Camp Creek. It's an active creek. And we're going to do a Memorial Greenway, Special Operations Memorial Greenway. My background being Navy SEALs, I'm going to take, we're going to make some memorial sites along that way that would be very motivational and everything. So I'm actually more excited about the Special Operations Memorial Greenway than I am about the apartments. But yeah, and what's been amazing about it is I mean, I just kind of prayed about it because we didn't know what we were going to do with, 22 acres and only about 8.5 of it was buildable. So there was a pretty sizable, 14 acre area that was really going to be unused because it falls in the floodplain. But as we started getting into it, I think we got it under contract. And then right behind there, we started to realize that other property owners on the east side of our property were planning. There's plans. The Carolina Thread Trails is actually going to come straight along there, and the other side of that is going to tie in. So we're going to be meeting up with the Carolina Thread Trails to be able to offer a pretty neat project already kind of in place. So I see 5Ks, 10Ks runs being supported maybe twice a year to raise money for special operations forces, maybe their families, lost loved ones, those kinds of things. So just a snapshot of what's going on there.
Yeah, it's great to have goals, and I think it's definitely doable, especially with the fact that we have this piece of land adjacent to it, and also for the folks who aren't familiar with this area, just west of our property is Ryan Homes, so they own that property, and they started already working on a cluster subdivision there. They have the infrastructure in place already, and I think they built probably a couple of dozen homes already there, just west of our property there. And the idea is to also tie in that trail through their property as well, because they also have a lot of greenway. They have the conservation agreement that they can't touch due to some restrictions of that property once they got approvals for the land. So it'd be nice to tie some stuff together there, and eventually in the future, maybe tie into other portions of trails that are heading from Charlotte into South Carolina. So, so that is basically, in a nutshell, what we've been working on. Let's see what else. So we talked about the land was entitled into the city of Lancaster, and really that's how cities start growing, right? When you have small city, and then you wonder, how did the city get so big, right? It's because of an entitlement process. So as little pieces and chunks of land start getting entitled into small cities, the city continues to grow and grow and grow, and also the infrastructure grows with it. And that's how cities become very large metropolitans, by this type of process, which is the entitlement process. and the development process. A lot of benefits to it, obviously, are taking advantage of the city's water service, the city's sewer service, the city's trash service, things like that, as if you're entitled into a city. So there are some advantages to doing that. We got, as Ty mentioned, we got a rezone from low density to high density, which allowed us that 250 or so unit design, allowed us to build something like that. Without that rezoning, we wouldn't have been able to design or put something like this in place. And so Ty, a couple of questions here. So where do you see this project of ours, I guess, in the next 8 to 12 months? And maybe as in the metro area, Lancaster, what do you see happening in the Lancaster, South Carolina area? Because it is a little bit further behind than other areas, but I think it puts us in a good position.
Yeah. Well, this project specifically, so just for a little bit of clarification, the annexation of the property into the city was what we were looking for. And the city was on board with this. They felt good about it. They liked it from the very get. And, it just needed to go through city council. And I believe that city council ended up being very much in favor because of the demand of what's going on. And, they didn't want low income apartments. They wanted, market rate. Those were very important things for the city. And we were able to oblige. One thing that, in development in general, if you can get in line or on board with the city's plan of growing, things are much, much easier. If you're trying to force your plan and it doesn't fall in line with theirs, it's a lot more cumbersome for sure. So we made sure that we were in line with them and got the high density rezoning. Just that piece alone, you're able to do more with the property. So that made the property more valuable. And then what we did from there was we got our civil engineer and our architect to start working on a design. The layout was very, very important because we did have some challenges. The challenge on this property is going to be the grade that was relatively steep at 6%, going down some places in as much as 8%, going down toward the creek. So there's a lot of excavation and dirt movement that needs to take place. So minimizing dirt can be very expensive when it comes to development. So in minimizing those costs early on, it kind of makes or breaks a project if it gets too expensive. So from early on, we knew we were going to be challenged with that. So we hit that from the time that we started. We've got the civil engineer to a point to where we could then go ahead and design the footprints, and we got an architect involved in that to be able to start to size that out. In order to get the unit size that we wanted, along with the count, we needed to stretch our footprint just a little bit bigger than what we had initially set out for. There were some challenges in that, but we worked it out, and because of the gradient, the slope, if you will, we do have 3 buildings that actually have a step down in the back. So half of the building is a 3-story building, and then on the backside, it's a 4-story building. So some things that we had to do there to make sure that we kept the grading costs down, but then we're able to maximize our building structure and the costs associated with that. So really cool tricks, smart people. Your team is everything, and we have a great civil engineer as well as a great architect that we're able to work together and make those things happen by our direction. We had seen some other projects that were very similar in nature, so we were able to make some suggestions, and they took it and ran with it. But then it's a matter of finding out. Your exit strategy from the get-go is very important. So in the back of my mind, as a guy that usually sells the project, I designed so that we could set it up for a sale. Right now, we do have a JV partner that is very, very interested. We are looking at 221D4 HUD financing. That's a HUD construction loan, a little friendlier rates, a little longer term amortization, which keeps your payment down, which gives us our best long-term numbers as it relates to expenses. And then, of course, maximizing cash flow, getting rents to a place that's fair for the market, but also, going to cover all of our expenses and still make a good return. So that's where we're at now. We're actually in the process of putting our loan package together for a HUD 221D4, which is just a construction loan for a market rate HUD build project. And if for any reason that does not come through, I think that our JV partner would probably not be interested in the project at this time, because that means that we've got to put more money into it and look for conventional financing. And that's not part of what their business model looks like at this time. At that point, we would put the project on the market and then sell it to a builder developer who right now I've got probably 4 or 5 guys that are interested in this, because we're actually 2 years ahead of the people that are going in there. Because I think we were kind of a pioneer in this market, not really knowing 2 years ago if this market was going to take off. And with all of the rooftops going in, Ryan Homes, DR Horton, what's the big project down there? There's Ryan Homes, DR Horton, and one
in Indian, like the southern part of Indian land, the senior housing community that's coming online. That's a big one.
Yeah, I can't think of who the builder is right now off the top of my head, but with those guys coming in and bringing in rooftops, it's just bringing more people down, along with all of the job growth taking place. E&J Gallo opened up and is hiring 500 employees in their first phase, and they have 3 phases of $1 billion project. Phenomenal facility. Their East Coast distribution center.
Yes.
Volkswagen is bringing in a little further south down the 77. They're bringing in their I believe it's their electronic vehicle headquarters in the United States is going down there. Huge project. I think they're looking at hiring something like 2 to 3, maybe even 4,000 employees. It's significant, along with a bunch of other things. I won't bore you with the gory details, but we've got a lot of job growth that's going to be bringing in a whole lot of folks that are looking at either buying or renting. And of course, if they're salaried, they can look at buying right away. You guys know how the loan programs work. And if you're a W-2 employee, you need 2 years of work history as a W-2 employee. So those folks would need to rent. So that's what we're looking at solving. The city knows they're short on rentals. And being 2 years ahead of everybody else, there's investors that are down there looking for property to be able to set up and build larger apartment complexes like what we're doing. So it's, builder developers would gladly pay us for the project if we wanted to put it on the market.
I believe we covered everything. Ty, thanks again for jumping on the call and going over this project with our newsletter readers. They have a better idea of kind of like what I've been working on. I'm not really too much involved as far as the webinars go. Mark puts out a lot of great content, does a lot of video, a lot of interviewing, adds a ton of value to all of our readers. But every now and then I do put some information together, give an update on what we're working on. Mark and I, as you know, we're doing a lot of syndicate. Well, not a lot anymore, slowed down quite a bit in the last couple of years, but we are just managing and continually improving our existing assets in Louisville, Kentucky. That being said, again, thanks, Ty, and thank you guys for listening in. And again, if you have any questions on the whole entitlement process or anything like that for Ty, more related to entrepreneurship, reach out to any one of us. We'll put in some notes on the newsletter. Send us questions, give us a call. We're more than happy to share anything that we've learned throughout the process. So thanks again for listening in. And as we always like to say here, be kind, be charitable, and invest wisely. Thank you, my friends.